Hello, everyone. This is my favorite time of year. And if you are a first-time home buyer, you're somebody out there in Southern California who would like to be a home buyer, this should be your favorite time of year as well. I'm going to go ahead and explain. Let's get started. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile Real Estate, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. And I mentioned that this is my favorite time of year, and the reason is pretty simple. This is typically the most favorable market, especially for entry-level home buyers. These are home buyers that have lower down payments and definite more budget restrictions. But it's not just that the market is a little bit easier right now. We tend to notice that there are fewer homes on the market, but there are also fewer buyers out there that you're competing against. But there's another reason for this. The sellers who are on the market right now in November and December, these are the sellers that need to sell their home. That means they're more likely to be flexible. They're more likely to do repairs. They're more likely to do a lot of things that are especially beneficial for first time or entry level home buyers. Let's go through the stats and I'm going to show you why. So, if we start off here with closed prices, one of the things that you'll notice is really we've been kind of gyrating in the same price range, especially on these entry level single family homes. We've kind of really been right around that $800,000 mark, kind of into that range there, that 775 to 825 mark, just kind of going back and forth. Gosh, probably since May of this year. One of the little secrets that I tell people, and that I think people don't understand is if we say that home prices are going to go up 6% this year, right? That's 0.5% a month. Unfortunately, that is not really how it works almost ever. Typically, most of the gains in prices happen in the spring. The market kind of coasts and then retracts a little bit towards the end of the year. That's the typical pattern. And if we look here on our condo market, we see the same thing with maybe a little bit of a softer market than the single family homes. If we look at our monthly payment, right, which is a combination of both the price as well as the prevailing interest rates, it's kind of a mixed signal, right? Because on one hand, the prices might be a little bit softer, especially if you're a value shopper, if you're going after those homes that might have 30 days or more on the market. But rates have also been up a little bit, especially over the last few weeks, or maybe even the last 4 weeks. But here we are doing kind of compositing both of those things out. We're actually in a pretty favorable payment structure. So on our entry level single family home, remember this is 5% down. It includes mortgage insurance, taxes, property insurance, really all of those things. We're still under $6,400 a month, which is really, if you look back through this year, that's better than where it has been for most of the point this year. And we've got kind of a similar situation, maybe not quite as favorable on that condo side here, right around $4,800. We've kind of been in that zone, really that $4,600 to $4,900 zone pretty much for most of the year. Just to give a little bit of perspective on this, like how much household income do you need to qualify for these homes if you do not have any other debt? So kind of a best case scenario, but with a low down payment, right? This is all based on 5% down. We're at $156,000 for that entry level single family home and just over $118,000 for that entry level 2 bedroom, 2 bath condo. And if we look at our absorption rate, again, it's really more of the same. We've been kind of hovering in that 70 to 80% range for most of the year outside of the spring when it was higher. For our entry level single family homes, we've been kind of hovering between that sort of 55 and 70% range for our entry level condos. Not really a whole lot has changed. I think in a lot of ways, our market has actually acted pretty normal for the latter half of this year. And really, when you account for that spring bounce or that spring growth in pricing, the spring forward, sometimes we call it, or the spring up. Really, this has been much more of a typical year. It's been the most typical year that we've seen since the pandemic. If we look at our total inventory, right, I do find it fascinating. It's holding a little bit more this year than it did last year, especially in these entry level segments. I think a big part of that is the interest rates. This segment of the market is considerably more sensitive to interest rates. It kind of lives and dies by what the bond market does. And by the way, we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. So do stay tuned. Kind of interest rates, what I think is happening and why I don't think you should care. But you'll notice our inventory levels are actually holding steady in both condos and entry-level single-family homes. I'm curious if this might just be a delayed reaction. We're going to see kind of a downturn towards the end of the year. Typically in election years, there's actually a bump in activity following the election. Everybody who's waiting to see what happens has seen what has happened, and they finally are ready to make a decision. If we look at our percent still active, again, really we've been kind of trending in that same range. This is another proxy for market competitiveness pretty much since at least June, right? We've really been kind of hovering in the same zone that we've been at. This is the one that surprised me a little bit. And remember, this is based on the last 2 weeks. So it's important to like bear that in mind. This is relative inventory. So what is the difference between relative inventory and absolute inventory? Well, absolute inventory is exactly what it sounds like. It's just the number of homes in that category for sale. Relative inventory is how many weeks of homes do we have available if no new homes come in the market? How fast will we run out based on the rate that homes are going into escrow? And so you'll see this jump right in inventory, and we're actually hitting the highest point we've had this year for that entry-level single-family home at just over 9.5 weeks, and also the highest point we've seen for condos. Now, the question is this really a trend, or is this honestly the week leading up to the election? I mean, pretty much everybody is preoccupied, especially this year, I think, and maybe even in the days following the election. I think a lot of people have been very preoccupied with things other than home buying. And is this a reflection of that, or is this a broader trend? That we're going to have to wait 2 weeks to actually see. So I promised to talk a little bit about interest rates this week and what I think is going to happen, and frankly, why I don't think you should care. If we're talking about interest rates, I'll start off with what I think is going to happen. I don't think either president was really poised to reduce deficit spending by very much. So in that sense, I don't think a lot has changed. I think one of the things we've noticed and that I've observed about the bond market is the bond market is by far the most emotional of the financial markets. And what do I mean by that? The bond market's very volatile. It's sort of a rumor here and a rumor there causes wild swings, both up and down. Really, that bond market is what determines interest rate swings. So earlier this year, the bond market got crazy thinking the Fed rate cuts were coming, right? Now they think we've elected a president and inflation will be high forever, right? Neither of those are necessarily true, but that's how the bond market sort of overreacted to both pieces of information. I do think we're going to see some easing next year. I don't think it's going to be as much as anyone wants or hopes for. So if you are waiting on the sidelines thinking there's going to be a day of 4.5% or even 5% interest rates in 2025, I don't see that happening. I think kind of a best case scenario is we're going to end up somewhere in the mid fives. I think that's a plausible outcome to see in 2025. But here's the flip side of this, why I don't think it should matter that much to you. First off, interest rates are not something that you have any control over or really any ability to truly guess. There are economists that go on TV. There are bond traders that attempt to guess interest rates, and they are wrong all the time. And these are people who presumptively do it for a living. That's number one, is it's not really something you can control. And number two, I think I don't know if a huge drop in interest rates would really be the benefit that you think it is, especially if you decide to wait. If you decide to wait and we got an unexpected reduction in interest rates, which could possibly happen, again, that market is very unpredictable, I think you would see jumps in demand, especially at the entry-level segment. I think the newfound competition in buying homes would negate any of the positives you get from the lower interest rates. I think you would have to bid higher against other buyers to get homes. I don't know if it would really be the net positive that you think it is. Now, conversely, if you buy into the market that we're in, which we know what kind of a market we're in, and heading into the next few months, I think it's favorable for entry-level home buyers. Should rates drop at some point in the future, you get to take advantage of that, even though you didn't wait, right? Like you still get to take advantage having bought, and this is why real estate agents love to use the term that I absolutely abhor, which is it's marry the house and date the rate. But the reality is the the home is a much longer term decision than what mortgage you have. Refinancing is not terribly difficult to do. And it's one of those things where, if rates go up, great, you've locked in a rate in a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. If they go down, great, you can refinance into a new 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So, I don't really see a huge amount of upside at this point to waiting if you're in a position, right, where it makes sense for you to buy, meaning your job, all those other things, you kind of got all those things in order. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching. Questions, comments, we love them. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And as always, if you or someone you know should be a homeowner and is not, we would love to talk with them and lend them our expertise. Don't be afraid to reach out. We'll see you again real soon.